the links. You join the channel here on Subscribestar. I was looking at this. I probably should have read the article before I started making the video, because I got down to this bottom part and I saw the numbers on. This is just DC. I did a video a couple of weeks ago about movies in general, and the number one loser recently was the Disney Panda movie. It lost $168 million, but then like all these other movies lost like $100 million. Even for studios are pretty big. They can take a lot of losses, but $100 million is a serious chunk of change, because it's like they got to make that up somehow. And I don't know, Fox has got the sports and Disney's got its parks and also have old stuff, but like they're making that money up, so they're subsidizing this propaganda. That's kind of exactly what it is, a subsidy. You look at this, if you're looking at the screen, this is the Disney movies, and the bottom ones are the amount of money they're putting into this movie. And then you look at the domestic, you're like, holy cow, this is a serious chunk of change. And it looks similar for Disney, for Fox, for all these other companies, where even the ones that are hits are not stellar hits. They're just, and there's a lot of losses here. I mean, this is like how many, like, is it $1 billion in losses over the past 20 years for DC? It's like, is that just the part of doing business? I can't help but think that the wokeness has something to do with it. Oh, and as soon as you say that, they lose their effing mind over it. It's like, yeah. We're Hugo Boss, and we're every stereotype you can think of, whatever. Intolerant, bigot. Yeah, but the numbers speak for themselves. The best example I can think of is Elizabeth Banks with Charlie's Angels, because that was so in your face. She looked the audience right in the eyes and said, "This is not made for men," and the movie bombed. And you go, this movie has to be successful so that women directors, you'll know that they're good. They're good directors. Well, I mean, so what point did we learn there, Elizabeth Banks? Because the movie didn't do well. I mean, you told men not to watch it, so men didn't watch it. Of course, it's some kind of action adventure with 3 women running around, like the original Charlie's Angels. Probably wasn't a huge hit either, but at least that was fun. And then you go, so why didn't women go see your movie? Shut up, you chat incel. You've never probably touched a woman. Hey, maybe I'm a monk living in a monastery. That's fine. I'm aligning my chakras with my third eye. But why didn't women see the movie? And then it's like, they don't have an answer to that. Like, why would you deliberately insult your audience? I mean, that's just one case, but it's like, there's no short. What was the Spielberg movie? Like, oh, we're not going to have it's going to be in Spanish and English, though I think it was supposed to be an Italian and Irish gang, but of course, I can't wait. I'm going to get this computer and be editing videos, and there's going to be these little missing spots. I'm like, what did they say during those missing? And you know what I'll do? I'll edit videos, and I'll put like the unedited ones up on Odysee, and then I'll just do the edited ones for YouTube. That'd be interesting. The Spielberg movie, the not the Hatfields and the McCoys. It's the Shakespeare. It was based on the Shakespeare play. I can't remember the name of the Shakespeare play. That guy made it into the Knights and the Jets or something, or he updated from Irish and Italian to like Puerto Rican gangs or something. It's like, oh, it's going to be in Spanish and English. Okay, great. So I mean, subtitles it's in America, right? Or if it's in, oh no, we're not going to put English subtitles. Why would you do that? Oh, for Bolshevik Marxist Frankfurt School talking points, insert that in here. It's like, it's all, I mean, it's just the Charlie's Brown, the wah wah wah. It's like none of it. They don't believe any of it. You go, oh, so how well did the movie do? Oh, yeah, I underperformed. Why is that? Because the audience, you're saying you're selling to a bilingual audience. Now, okay, what's the Venn diagram of the bilingual audience in America? Which there's quite a bit of those 2 languages. There's a large chunk for sure. But where does the Venn diagram cross over with the other circle of who are also interested in the movie? Oh, it didn't cross over that much. Yeah, but you're in a Hollywood echo chamber where you're just driving around in a Tesla, just doing endless lines of marching powder, and you think this is stunning and brave. Like, so did you think people were going to learn Spanish between the time they heard of the announcement and the time the movie came out? I mean, did they follow any of this stuff out to its logical extension, or they just do more marching powder and stay in their echo chamber and talk about how toxic the fans are? It's like, well, you can probably guess the answer to that one. So here's the thing with Black Adam. It was never expected to make money, and that's not just a throwaway hyperbolic statement. I mean, like, these people will have focus groups where they look at the calculus of the elements that go into a movie and the return on investment for each separate element. Like I always talk about the hot chicks in Transformers, which are, you know, very, very mediocre movies. It's just a bunch of CGI movies. And someone explained it to me like those are movies meant for a foreign audience where the translation doesn't matter. And that's why you have like one of the movies was a hot English girl supermodel type, and then the other movies was the Megan Fox, and she's running around the desert and she's bouncing around, you know, looking hot. And it's like it doesn't add. Does that add anything to the movie? No, but it's a piece of this matrix that brings in a certain return on investment that the people who are looking at the numbers before the movie know these elements will have a certain, like that audience is going to get males, you know, between, you know, whenever boys start paying attention to girls like 12ish on up pretty much until they kind of age out of these movies. But that's going to have a certain like tangible return on investment. Just that scene, like I remember it, and the movie is dumb, and obviously I'm dumb for remembering it, but you know, I'm a male, of course. That scene of Megan Fox running through the desert and the hot British chick, it's like those are the two scenes I remember about the movies that stick out with me because they were like, you know, they were well done, and that's kind of the thing I pay attention to hot chicks. Shocking. What a shocking revelation. Those are the two scenes that stuck with me, the two hot chicks in the movies. And that's by design. The focus group knows that. And you just throw those elements in the movie. Like you got this action adventure movie, you're going to find the hottest chicks you can for those little parts. Because you know the movie's not Shakespeare. Everything else is just a bunch of CGI explosions. Like it's not plot driven. It's not a whodunit. It's some kind of identitarian movie. It's just an action adventure. So you got, you know, the Indiana Jones and some hot sidekick, or vaguely that, you know, Princess Leia and the two guys run around the universe. It's like, what scene do you remember? Again, oddly enough, that scene in the first one where she's wearing like the I sound really fixated on boobs, and I didn't think I was, but I remember that scene of her, like, because I remember the behind the scenes. There's like a 4-hour behind the scenes interview with Lucas, and they're saying because she was so big and she was so top heavy, they had to like tape them down as much as they could, and they had her dieting and trying to lose as much weight as she could to try to take as much weight off, because she was wearing a white robe. And like if you watch that scene again, you pay attention to it. As a kid, you don't pay attention to it, but as an adult, you know, it's brought to my attention. I'm just not like looking for these scenes. But you notice that scene now, and it's like, oh, those puppies are struggling. She's jogging in a white robe to escape, I don't know, the Death Star or something. Those puppies are just, you know, all over the place, which is kind of like takes you out of the movie a little bit, because I don't know, you think, I don't know, it's like it's a science fiction thing. You never really think of them as humans. But there's like, obviously there's a certain percentage of people who remember that kind of stuff. So that's in boobs. Was that like 5 minutes talking about boobs? That seems like a lot on boobs. Again, if I was editing this, I'd probably edit that kind of stuff out. Anyway, so this is a minor character that, and if you haven't read comics, you've probably never heard of Black Adams. You might have even got him confused with Shazam. I'm not a DC person. And, you know, I just noticed this as I did this video. The subliminal programming of these movies is kind of interesting. So, like, what were the problems with the movie? Well, the character you never heard of, and The Rock's acting. Well, it's The Rock's acting. And then, of course, they swapped out all the other characters. And then, like I said, when I saw this movie, I wasn't familiar with the character at all. But I just assumed, like, oh, yeah, they probably swapped out the characters. I mean, the whole thing was so bad, it didn't, like, that wasn't a point, that wasn't a problem point. It's like the whole thing, it's like, yeah, it's 2022. If the characters of European origin, of course they're going to digitally genocide them. The thing is, it's like, so it's called Black Adams, but it bears no relation to the original comic book. Again, that's a ship that sailed. The thing is, all these kind of movies, they're so full of purse puppies and Mary Sue's. I mean, the reason those terms are even in existence, it means a non-Euro character. And the distinction is important because they're complete characters. They've arrived at the end of their redemption arc of their character development. If they're people of the light, they're already done. They can't have any nuance. They can't be multifaceted, because if they are, then the Twitter Tumblr crowd will get on Twitter and just be outraged about this is perpetuating harmful stereotypes about a systemic, marginalized, oppressed, and just all this, you know, Frankfurt School Bolshevik talking points. And you look at them, you go like, yeah, but this is character development. This is how stories are written. They fundamentally do not want to see character development in stories. And then the second part is you ask them, well, okay, you want propaganda is what you're saying. You want complete characters, no development if they are not European. The only characters who can be interesting and have nuance are the fair skinned characters from characters that look like you and me. It's like you guys kind of went full circle there. The soft bigotry of lowered expectations. So the most boring characters are the non-white characters. That's where we are right now. Where if you see them on screen and they get outraged when you call them purse puppies or Mary Sue's, but it's like, tell me you're gonna write a non-Euro character with some nuance where they have to fail at the beginning and they even have malicious character traits but have a redemption arc. How are you going to do that, and what's the Twitter response going to be? The Twitter response is they're going to lose their effing minds, but they're also saying like they want propaganda, and the follow-up is, oh, but will you pay for it? And the answer to that is clearly no, because all these movies have a long string of failures. Like, I look at Hollywood in general, and no exaggeration, I don't see a path forward for any of Hollywood. And the numbers seem to back that up. And they don't, it's not just Twitter dragging them left. They don't want, like Hollywood, the people, I don't know if you remember that interview with the girl from Disney, one of the Disney chicks, they were talking about what they envisioned the future of Disney to be and all this kind of like BLT, it's like just Bolshevik 101 talking points. And these people are paid millions of dollars and they're in this conference call and like they're fully drinking the Kool-Aid. They believe all this stuff. And then you look at the string of underperforming movies and outright bombs, and you ask them like, well, so like you have this worldview, I'll just call it a globalist worldview. If the audience seemed to be more nationalist, they're at least for whatever reason, the audience, you're not taking the audience along with you. They're not buying your product, and you're subsidizing these movies through park sales and through old movies from the 90s, which are still phenomenal sellers. And then other merchandise associated with Disney, like you're subsidizing these movies, and DC and Sony, they're all doing the same thing. They're subsidizing this woke propaganda. And in their minds, they think, oh, well, the toxic fan base, the man baby chads, well, we just need to get younger and younger audiences to kind of like generationally brainwash people into this. And until we get them on board, they're willing to lose money doing it. In like all the way, they're willing to take Disney. Like, it's to say Disney is willing to put itself out of business. I know how crazy that sounds, but it's a pattern of behavior over the past 8 years since I really started noticing it in 2015 with that first Star Wars, and it's like it hasn't changed. And then you look at DC and you look at all these other shows, they're all super woke. These are a string of underperforming movies or outright bombs. I'll say Wonder Woman 84. It was a woke movie, and it had a little bit of excuse because of the timing of the Wu Flu stuff in the theaters, and people were not into it. It had a little bit of that excuse. But even if it was released in the theaters, it was never going to be. It was always going to be a bomb, and that was like that. That's a super bomb. But then you look at the other ones: Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, Black Adam, Shazam, even Justice League. I didn't realize Justice League. And here's the thing about that: I saw Justice League, and then I saw the 4-hour the Snyder cut, and that was a really solid movie. The original Justice League was nothing to write home about, but the Snyder cut was a solid movie. Like why didn't you just make 2-hour movies, and you probably would have done. I don't know. There's like politics behind the scene of that, but you look at the rest of these movies, and you look at even the ones that are soft hits. They're soft hits. They're not having movies just blow the doors off. Like their hits are just barely hits. And why? Well, I can go through every one of these movies. Like I've got Wonder Woman's 2.5 hours, and I've seen it, I think 3 times, taking careful or at least mental notes on it. And I've done that. I pointed out all the woke stuff in it, and you could do that for every movie. And you go like, all they have to do is just not make this woke, loosely anti-European type, making people who look like you and me the bad guy every single time. Like just make more fair, balanced movies. I'm not saying do the opposite. People just want to see a fair, balanced portrayal, and you would make money. They're not making these. This is a religion to these people. The people who control these companies are willing, like they're personally insulated by wealth. They will burn these companies to the ground if they have to. This is a religion. Like what do you like? The people drinking Kool-Aid. It's the same mindset. And I know that sounds crazy, but I know it doesn't sound as crazy saying it now as it did 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it might have sounded a little crazy, but you're hearing it now, and like I know there's a lot of you who like are on the Gab and Twitter and all these other Telegram stuff. Like there's a ton of people who are kind of awakening to this stuff. You don't make a series of losing bombing movies and like somebody has to kind of scratch their head and go like, well, you guys are making propaganda. Like this is just DC. You're repeatedly making propaganda that are losing money. Why are you doing this? And you know why they're doing it. This is social engineering. This should be deeply weird to a lot of people, but you try to bring it to people's attention. You got to be so careful on YouTube because they're part of the same machine. And a small channel like this, you can say a lot more. But like if this small channel got left-wing attention, then it would be gone in a month. They would just report every video that doesn't go along with the narrative. And then there's just one more voice that's permanently banned off of YouTube. And that's just the way it works. And, there's no getting around that. So the narrative is never talked about. Like the other big YouTube channels, Gary talks about movies a lot, and Odin talks about movies a lot, but they're talking about the numbers and they're talking about a lot of stuff that's safe to talk about because they have no choice. Like they're making a ton of money on YouTube, so like the important stuff just doesn't get talked about because there's the platforms to talk about it are on Odysee and BitChute, and I mean it's a whole nother discussion. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I hope this video wasn't too weird. Now I kind of listened to it in my head. I wonder, am I getting weirder or is the world getting weirder? I don't feel like I'm getting weirder. I feel like I'm getting, I don't know, like my third eye chakras are aligned. I feel like I'm kind of seeing the world as it is. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode. Oh, and a very sincere thank you to everyone who is who's been donating. Very, very generous.